Ačiū. Ačiū. Ne, tik tai galima sustabdyti. Tai mes tada esam live YouTube'ai, laukiam renginio.
Gerai, tai tada kol prasidės mes išsijungime, ne? Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
And welcome to our Sounds in the Nature third day of our 5. And this is our European project, which connect the 3 countries, Lithuania, Netherlands, and Sweden, and connect us through the art, land art, artist, and the main idea and power of the collaboration. And today we have a midway of our 1-week journey, and it's very wonderful to be a part of it. And as I see that we have some new participants, I will come again with some technical information. So the event gonna be recorded, and as well as you are participating in this public event, you agreeing with being recorded with this event, and this and we now have as well translation on YouTube channel, so you can go to see and to hear the event and lectures on YouTube channel if you don't agree to be recorded. And we have as well a translation possibility, and we on the Zoom we have menu bar, and it's written interpretation, and you can choose which language you would like to listen to. So our third day will start Lars as he did yesterday, and he will continue to talk and to explain us and to experience what is storytelling. Yesterday it was about land art, and today we're gonna move to to the digital storytelling. And as we see, the digital things are occupying our days more and more. So Lars, the stage is yours, and I'm just asking if you would like, I'm sharing your presentation, or maybe you would like to try to do by yourself.
I think we can, that you can start the one I sent to you.
Okay.
Yes. So I'm going to talk about site-specific digital storytelling. And this, you could say that this lecture is a part of that I'm project leader for the project. In English, it's called Cultural Heritage and Game Technology in Skaraborg, the sub-region Skaraborg, where Mariestad is a part of, one of 15 municipalities. So when this project started in 2015, we said that we were going to work in 3 digital narration platforms. And as a result from the first project, ended in 2018, we understood that the third platform, contextualization of cultural heritage, would work on all 3 platforms. So when we continued to work, there is only one digital narration platform, and it's the contextualized, you could say. So the third platform works for all 3 platforms. Yes, we can go to next slide. And here, in one way, it continue with the digital, but we also go back to land art here in the beginning, because this is in the image you see Nimis. It's the most well-known land art project in Sweden, started in 1980 by the Swedish artist Lars Vilks. And you could say that this is a good example of the relational aesthetics by Nicolas Bourriard, what he mentioned as relational aesthetics, because what Lars Vilks is investigating in this project is, you could say that it is what art could be in legal sense, and what is possible to do in an art project. So we can take next slide. Yes, this is an art piece that is located almost at the same place as Nimis. It's a sculpture, but it is also a book, it is said. It's cataloged in the library catalog, Libris. So it has its ISBN number. And also this art piece could be said to be a relational aesthetic project. So and at the same time, you see here Ladonia. this is screen savings from a homepage, the Ladonia homepage, which is said to be a country, an internet country, you could say, but also from this place where where Arx and Nimis is placed. I remember that in the 90s there were migrants from all over the world that tried to get citizenships in this Ladonia, even if it's no really country, but they believed it. So again, you could say that this is a very good example of relational aesthetics. And we can take next slide. This is more internet art or net art. It was a project by 2 students at the Royal Art University in Stockholm, Tobias Bernstrup and Palle Thorsson. Made this internet project where, and if, as you can see, in 1995, it's early internet art. I mean, the real internet started around 1993-94, so it's early in time in that way. They were investigating how you can do art on internet. And if we continue to next slide. Well, the project was we can go back one. It's, yeah, this work was removed from the server, the site. So you could say it's a site-specific art on internet. And like Richard Serra's the tilted arc that was removed from the plaza where it stood and censored, this art was censored and taken away from its place because the Swedish Institute for Computer Science was afraid that they should be that it was child pornography. We can go to next slide again. And it was about this project in the news. Next slide we can take also. And in reality, the child in this image is just a younger brother to the artist, to one of the artists. So it's they were insinuating child pornography, but there were no child pornography. But it was censored anyway in the beginning. We can take next slide. Yeah, and the art critic Lars O. Eriksson, he criticized the censorship and defended the artist. So this is just an example of how net art could be said to be site-specific also. And then it's digital art. So we can go to take next. These students or the artists, Tobias Bernstrup and Palle Thorsson, they continued to work in the digital sphere. And this is, they made 3 computer games, you could say, where you run around in museums and killing zombies. And one of them was in Vilnius, Lithuania, 1997. And they ended up in a modern museum in Stockholm in 1999 with one version of this game. And because that you could sit in front of the computer at the museum and play, run around in the museum in digital way. and then you could go around in the museum afterwards. So I think that this could be called a type of site-specific art, and also like we talked about yesterday, or that I talked about yesterday, the dialectic that Robert Smithson used when he, in his non-sites, connected to sites outside. Here you have the connection, the dialectic between the digital computer game and the site, which is the museum in this piece, I would say. Yes, we can take next slide. And now we come back to CASTIS, the Cultural Heritage in Game Technology in Skaraborg. We can take next slide. The third platform then, how to contextualize cultural heritage in a sub-region. I mean, cultural heritage, it could be like the Stone Age grave, which could be like 3,000 or 5,000 years old. We have the ancient village outside the Västergötlands Museum in Skara. We have the paper mill machine at Vadsbo Museum in Mariestad. And we're still creating cultural heritage today, like when young people cosplaying. So how could we contextualize all these different cultural heritage? Well, our solutions then was to create characters and stories and adventures that they were in, and through the characters we weaved together the disparate cultural heritage sites. And we can take next image. So we created, myself and a lot of students have worked in this project, and also museum pedagogues, librarians, and a lot of people around in Skaraborg, in the sub-region. We created the story in the ground story is that this troll researcher, Lovis, she's writing a bestiary about all the fairy creatures of Skaraborg, and there is this antagonist, a ringmaster, who is a troll, who also have a circus, and he tried to catch fairy tale creatures, and he has stolen the bestiary book from the troll researcher, and with that book he goes around in the sub-region and try to catch the creatures to force them to be in his circus. But the troll researcher has asked Kira and Luppe, the protagonists of these adventures, to help her to save all the fairy creatures. So we use these characters as a type of pedagogical agents. And when you use characters like this, if they should apply to the younger people's, the audience, if they should be able to relate to them, you need to think about them or see them as thinking and feeling beings. That's important. And we also use these characters as focalizers. Their adventures points at the cultural heritage that the municipalities want us to highlight. We can take next slide. So Kira and Luppe, I mean, there is one boy and one girl, so they are designed to balance gender. Kira is the tough one of them, and Luppe is more careful. So, and because of that, there are all these fairy tale creatures in the stories. There is also, and they are local characters, local fairy tale creatures. These adventures is also adaptations of intangible cultural heritage in many ways. And some mythological creatures are more widespread, but there is also like the Koffan in the Mariestad book. She's only known from Lake Vänern, close to Mariestad. Yeah, we can take next slide. We have this far, we have made 15 books. There is one book that is being illustrated now, so there will be at least 16 books. And we can take next slide. And together with the book, we have an application, a mobile phone or reading tablet application. If you scan like anfangs in the books, then creatures like the Näcken here, for example, will, or the stream horse will come up in front of the book like this. So this is augmented reality application. So we get the next slide. We can use it as the first one, whom, when you read the books, but we can also use these anfangs and put them, just print them out and put them anywhere, make them to signs. We get the next slide. Yes, this is one example how we used it all in museums. We get the next slide. And this is signs out in the landscape at the cultural heritage place. This is a stone ship. It's a stone ship. I think it's 10 or 20 kilometers from Mariestad. It's the next second biggest stone ship in Sweden. So Askeberga stone ship. Yeah. We can take next slide. Yes, this is just one more example. And next slide. Yes, this with the intangible cultural heritage. UNESCO has been working with this since the 1970s, and at the General Conference in 2003, a convention of the safeguarding of the intangible cultural heritage was adopted. And the convention emphasizes that the safeguarding of traditional culture and folklore is primarily done by supporting a living use of it. And I think this is what we are doing in the club project. We are using the old stories, the legends, but we are adapting them to new stories with new characters. But the old legends are the skeleton in our stories, you could say. Yes, we can take next slide. So this is some images. The two of the images are from Mariestad, because together with the Koffan in Mariestad, there is also this legend of the White Lady. It's a ghost at the museum. Here it's role played. So this is one more example how we use the books then. children can role play them. And we also have one girl that loves Kira so much, so she has cosplayed her. And I know that her father has helped her to create the costume. So we can take next step, next slide. We also are working on a board game connected to all the books, but also to more cultural heritage in Skaraborg, the sub-region. There's also more student work. So the game design is created by Carl Malm, and the illustrations are created by Sigurd Norberg, who is from Mariestad, for example. Yes, we can take next slide. So this in the board game, this the players will get missions, things that needs to be solved in the sub-region, and they are going to use the resource cards about creatures, places, and treasures and magic to solve the missions. And they will tell stories. So again, this is a way to keep the immaterial, intangible culture heritage alive, you could say, by creating stories in the game. Yes, we can take next slide. Yeah, Kira and Luppe has also been a computer game in Mariestad at the museum. We can take next slide, and we can. Yeah, at the museum you could see this paper mill machine, and we can go back again to the next last slide. And if you play this computer game, you will understand how the machine once was used at the paper mill. If you see it nowadays at the museum, it's hard to understand what it is and how it was used. But if you play the game, you will understand that. So this is a role model for how you can use this kind of computer games at industrial museums, you could say. That is the plan, at least. So we take next slide again, and next. All the books has been, when we started to work on the books, we talked about them as digital books, but instead they was printed, and we created the augmented reality application to come to support them. But nowadays you can also read them in a digital way and listen to them, because they have been dramatized. So you can listen to the adventures and look at them at the same time and read if you want. So you can choose to listen or read at the same time as you look at the illustrations. And this is a cooperation partner called Mediapoolen, Mediapoolen is owned by the most of the municipalities in the Västra Götaland region. So all of the Skaraborg municipalities owns this, together with more municipalities in the region. So we can take next slide. So this is just another view of this project then from Mediapoolen. There is this map that you can click on the municipality name, and then you come to that book. So it's just another graphical user interface to the same project, you could say. get the next slide. And one of the latest things that has happened in this project is that the tourist organizations of Skaraborg has been allowed by the media pool to use all the audiobooks. And I think we can take next slide. I hope that I have. No, we can go back again. Now, so in all the 14 places around in Skaraborg where there is a book this far, you can find a sign at the site specific place where you can scan a QR code, and then you will be allowed to listen to that book in your mobile phone. So this project, I'm sorry that I didn't. I should have had put an image of how the signs are looking, or how they at the place, of course, but I missed that. So this is one of the most recent ways to use the books, site specific, you could say. So we can take next slide. So this is one more student project that Niklas Dristig made. It was his degree project connected to the club project last year in spring. And we worked together in this project that he wanted to test how you could use site-specific storytelling with QR codes and home pages. So it's like a web application. If you scan the QR code, you come to a page where you can find information about this kind of troll hair, the teeth-milking milk hairs, the teeth-milking kind of fairy hairs. So they are either called milk hairs or they are called just troll hairs. But in the story, the ringmaster has started to create different kinds of troll hairs. He wants them to work at his circus or yes. But Kira and Luppe has found out this, and they understand that the ringmaster are creating troll hairs by using DNA from different kind of fairy tale creatures. So Niklas tested this way to tell a story at 3 different places last spring. One of the places was in Göteborg. It's not in Skaraborg. So then we create and he tested it in the Castle Forest Park in Gothenburg, where they have these Humboldt penguins and harbor seals. So and the result from this test was that people thought that it would work to use it, but they wasn't very impressed by the narration in that far. But we understood, or Niklas understood, that if the as you can read the recommendation here, if you use site-specific considerations they should take precedence in situations where the concept conflicts with narrative consider. You should always use the site-specific considerations, and you should. So, for example, when children saw these Humboldt penguins and the harbor seals when they scanned the QR code and connected them to the seal pond and the penguin pond in the park, then they understood it really well, and then they liked the project. They was not impressed by the clown hairs or the coffin hair, for example, because they were not site-specific. I hope that I explained this good enough. But so when what you create the story, what you're creating the stories about, when the storytelling is site-specific, then people understand it and they like it. If it's not that site-specific, then it's not that interesting. So the recommendation is, if you do this kind of digital mobile interaction and storytelling, you would try to be site-specific. Yeah. That is the recommendation. So we can take next slide. So now Niklas is working on a project where he uses what he learned by his project in the ancient village in Västergötlands Museum. This is a part of our sub-region. Then he is now working on a project where they will use QR codes and storytelling about the old houses in the village. And this is a project that is supported by the leader Nordvästra Skaraborg and European Union also, and of Högskolan, University of Skövde. So, and what I shouldn't forget to say here is that by using QR codes and home pages, then you don't need. It's more economic and it's easier than to create applications for mobile phones. So it's a more flexible and more economic way to use internet for the storytelling. This is why we're doing this. You can update the home pages for events at Easter, for example, or at Christmas, or at in the summer, or things like that. So it's easier to be more flexible if you use home pages than creating new applications. Because what I have understood through the club project, every time I want to update the club application, then I have to pay a lot of money for it. But if you work with home pages, it's much the municipality or the museum can work update them much easier themselves. So I think the next slide is the last one. Yes, so I think that this dialectic approach that Robert Smithson had could be used also when you create digital site-specific projects. And it's important that it's there, because I mean, if you compare with the Pokemon Go, which you can play everywhere. The characters in the game are not site specific, but maybe, but then it's a game in much higher degree. And but if you are just creating digital storytelling, then you need to make the stories site specific. Yeah. So I hope that you understand what I mean with this. So thank you. I think that was everything. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you, Lars. It's I see very nice these characters done like illustrations, and very nice.
Thank you very much.
And very nice try to get young generation to some specific region to tell the stories and to be attracted somehow, like a collaboration with young generation to come closer to the nature or to the art and to the books. Yes, and it's I think very, very thin line. Then it's going more and more digital than the real life. But it's nice that we have projects like that.
Yes. Yes. But we try to inhold what the stories in the mobile phone is about. Should it be that you should go and look in the mobile phone all the time when you are at the place? So we try to make the story or the narration in the phone about the place. So we have a mission to do something at the place. So that's important. I mean, all the pedagogues and the museum pedagogues and so they don't want the children to just go around and look in their phones. It should be about the place.
Yes. Yeah, I think that maybe we can that in our discussion time to have that questions from the audience. And now I would like to invite Lotten. Lotten, are you here? Because I can see checking the names. Yeah, because Lotten is like one of the initiators of this project, Season Art Gardening and this land art collaboration through 3 countries. And she is as well a PhD and lecturer at University of Skövde, as well like Lars. And yes, and I'm wondering what what to do, and she's saying that she's trying to get. Yes, and while we're waiting for Lotten to connect with some technical issues, I'm just thinking what to fill with this pause, with what. As long as we have our sound in nature, sound in nature all week, and the artist should go to that direction to create a land art with inspiring by sounds or even to put the sounds. Maybe we can open our faces in these boxes and to try to do our authentic some voice, some sound, and to do a concert for ourselves. Who is in?
I'm in.
Jūratė, Andrius, Vaidas, Lina, Jelita. Lots of silence. Silent is good as well.
Okay. I see Vilma is in.
Vilma in.
Okay.
My English is very poor, but I try to understand what is talking about. I am interested in music books, voice books.
Okay, so
Vilma, yra galimybė lietuvių kalbą klausyti ir klausti, yra vertėjai.
Tu supranti, man tai labai patiktų vat, garso knygos, jeigu čia būtų galima kažkaip tai dalyvauti tame, tai sutikčiau.
Vilma, I will be answering in English, okay, and you can talk in Lithuanian, and the people who doesn't understand Lithuania, we have opportunity to get an interpreters for English, and verse vice. Okay. I am not sure that we gonna talk now about the voice books, but maybe we can just somehow go to our voices and to our sound. Maybe we can do like some breaths, some deep breaths in and out through the mouth, and then in through the nose and out through the mouth, and one more time, and then out through the mouth.
And I have an idea. Can I share it?
Yes, of course.
Do we have time?
Yes, because we're still waiting for Lotten, so we have time.
Because I heard, I guess from Vaidas coming sounds in my room. Maybe we can, for example, open windows and try to get as many natural sounds in this space we are, and listen to them. How does it sound for you?
Yeah.
It's for me.
For all of you, like it's just a suggestion to do an experiment.
Yeah, to open. Or if we are like in our home, there is more silent, maybe we can just do some sounds by the things we have, like for example, like a pencil and a telephone, and just to do, and all of us just open our microphones to unmute and to do any sounds you are you have an impulse to do, and yeah, and maybe we'll do a concert and some, yeah. Vilma, do you have something to make a sound?
Stiklas, the glass. Also,
do you hear this?
Yes, why there's some shh, 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 shh. Yeah. We can do with fingers something. Or if we have some instruments.
This is Kankles?
Yes,
Ah.
I can show this instrument. This instrument is Lithuanian. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, something like this. Yes. Yeah, and we have no connection to Latin, and she is the second our speaker, and we don't have anybody else to talk. Maybe we can wait just for some minutes, and I will share some sounds from the nature, what I got during some time.
It could be that she is not trying to connect until 11 o'clock. So, but maybe she will turn up soon.
Nasta, you are muted.
I would like to ask one question for Lars. Maybe you tell about, do you have international projects with other universities or organizations?
There are, I have not myself, but there are other projects going on. We have a lot of, because the programs where in the department where I am, it's computer art programs, and we have master programs. So we have and which are international. So we have a lot of international students in the computer art department. But there are also
one more question.
I just wanted to say that there are we have also other researchers and teachers that are coming from other countries, and they are working with projects in international projects. So,
can I get a question?
yes.
You mentioned Lithuanian game makers and the game. Do you know? Maybe I didn't hear correctly, but do you know who is the creators of that game?
That game was the same artist, Tobias Bernstrup and Palle Thorsson. The computer game makers are allowing people to rebuild the games. So they used games that was already there and rebuilt them to the museum. So it looked they looked like the Vilnius Museum and the Modern Museum in Stockholm and in Denmark.
That's interesting, because I also worked in a game company, but not Lithuanian, but Japanese. It was a Koei company. It's we just search for the how to say, brothers in mouse or in planchette, and just we found few, but you tell me something new, that there is something who can rebuild the game. It's really cool. I will search that and I will see. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, Vaidas, for a question and for filling a little bit space of silence. And we have Lotten here, so
Yes.
we just wait for some time. She could prepare. And Lotten, would you like to share by yourself? Or
yes, I can do that. I can try. And if Lars is finished?
Yes.
Okay, so you're prepared, I can start, or do you want to have a break to move? Or maybe people need to do something.
Maybe you need some time for like
no, I'm
arrive.
prepared.
It's okay.
It's okay for me.
So we can continue with you.
I can't share here.
You can.
Or because it's only host. Maybe you can share mine. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, it's okay. I can do that.
Sveikas, Šarūnai. Mano kusė.
Thank you. So I can start, or? Okay, so I say Laba diena, mano vardas Lotten. Then I can't say so much more. I'm really happy to be here, and I am working as a lecturer and researcher at the University of Skövde. I'm a colleague to Lars Vipsjö, as you just heard. And my field, my area of interest is entrepreneurship, mostly. So I'm in business administration. And I also work since many years together with Lars, because I have an interest also in the culture field. I think that's of importance when you actually try to develop areas. I mostly work in rural areas, and I see possibilities, but also lack of what is happening when you are lacking those kind of inspirational fields, and the need of co-creation for a start to have more flourishing areas. So that's kind of my field. So today I want to speak about the image of places and how you can use cultural expressions and landmarks in rural areas. And it's based on the work from Lynch from 1960, actually, when he presented ideas how to develop big cities in the United States. So I have tried to work with those kind of theories and adapt them to smaller areas, more rural areas. So it's really fits very good into this off-season art gardening project, where you have landmarks that can develop, disappear, or co-create with the inhabitants in areas for making interest and curiosity to visit those kind of places or to live in those kind of places. So that's the base. Okay, thank you. So this is a quote from Lynch. Every citizen has had long associations with some part of his city or place, if it's not a city, and his image is soaked in memories and meanings. I think that's a very good start, because you can remember your childhood. You have hopefully good memories left, but you remember cities, places, and landmarks in a different way. When you visit them, when you are an adult, maybe it's kind of disappointing because they were huge, they were bright, they were adventure when you were a child. But every person has a link to its own hometown or place. And what is possible to do with part of cities, part of areas, is actually to also give new citizens, new visitors, that kind of feeling. What is the feeling when you leave this place? Why do you want to be here? How can you create so you feel safe, comfort, and happiness to live or to visit and stay in that area? So he defines and speak about nodes, districts, paths, and landmarks. It's kind of physically parts in an area that you can work with. So you can study people, how they react, how they walk, how they talk, how they behave when you plan a city or an area to be developed. And you know, I am from the countryside, really from the countryside. So I'm grown with horses and cows and things. And you know, when you let those animals out, they don't follow the road, they make their own path. So the roads in my area are like this, with a lot of curves, because the animals don't go straight. They follow their own way. And people actually do the same. If you see a plantage of flowers or grass and people walk straight through it, and you put signs, don't walk here, but people are lazy and they walk the most comfortable, the easiest way. And it's the behavior we have. So to study behavior, then we can plan so it can function, and it can be like that image is like it's easy, accessible. It's easy, and you like it as a human, how we react. We can take next slide, please. So here also, Lynch discussed this. To understand places, you can use different tools, wayfinding devices. You can have maps, of course. Today you have it in your phone. You have Google Maps and things like that, but you can also have the paper map. You can have a map in the street showing maybe the town hall, the church, the square, etc. Things of interest where you can walk and to find a way, but also get nice places to visit. Road signs and house signs. And in rural areas, we have a lot of those walking trails. In Sweden, you can walk through the whole Sweden, hiking, and you have trails after the monks a long time ago. And a lot of people are walking. You know, in Italy, you have this long path. You can stay and sleep overnight, but you walk a long way to follow those kind of paths. So it's actually also not in the big cities or cities. You have also landmarks in the rural areas that is of interest. That can be a complement. Next, please. And he speaks about the two-way process that you have between the observer, you as a person, or the people walking in this area, and the environment. So it's depending of the needs and desires of the person, what is worth seeing and experience. And that can change between person to person, of course. He speaks about the mental picture that will gain the identity and organization. And he speaks about making a long-term relationship in a way. You feel like a family feeling to visit those kind of things. And art pieces and landmarks like buildings or paintings and things like that, it's something you actually want to go and visit. You know, the museum in Bilbao in Spain, for example, it's attractive. So people just go for that name. Maybe they don't even visit the museum. They go to that place because it's a creative area. So different areas get different kind of images, ideas about like stories or myth and things like that. But you want to, you need to go and needs and desires when you plan those kind of things. Next, please. He speaks about structure and identity. you make a structure around this. You make it understandable. You must understand how to navigate. If you have a map and you can't navigate, you get angry because you get confused. You must make it easy for the people who should be here and to get a sense of the place. So the identity is built by the inhabitants, but also the visitors and the roamers around the place. So you have a glimpse of the whole. I see I have a question, but it's or something in Lithuanian. Is it something I need to respond to, maybe, Ernesta? No? Okay, thank you. We can take next slide. And no, the last one, the imageability. Thank you. It's how to use this imageability. You can actually try to travel with car. I did it in one of the municipalities I should work with here in West Sweden. I took the car. I drove from one point to next and southwest, north, east, to understand and to get an idea about this area, how it functions and what kind of landmarks there is, how the roads crossings are. Is it forest? Is it the open acres? How many churches? How does it look? How you transfer in those kind of things. You can actually work with pictures, making sketches, study maps, etc. And the most important is to interview people in the area, how their expressions are, how they interpret the area. But don't stay with the inhabitants. You also need to speak with visitors, because maybe some things are totally different in how you experience it when you meet it for the first time. So the more you get information about the physical place, you can understand and develop this area. Next, please. There is elements of the city or the place image that you can actually check. You can make it like a checklist. The path. It can be like channels amongst where the observer moves, the people are moving. And you can have edges. It can be like linear elements. You have boundaries. Maybe you have walls, you have railroads, you can have water, etc., that are blocking your way. So you can actually see where do we need to have those crossroads, for example. Is that a good place to place a piece of art, for example, or is it possible for people to really visit it, etc.? You have districts, medium to large sections in the city or the place. It can consider to have a center, small centers in the area where people can gather to get those spaces for creation, co-creation. Nodes or points you can enter, for example, junctions or streets corners or squares. Good places to have information or inspiration where to move to next nodes, for example. So you have a red thread to continue to follow. First you see landmark 1, then you go to experience this thing, etc. Then you want to drink coffee. Where are the restaurants and shops? And the landmarks are really like big landmarks used to be point references. It's physical objects, mostly like churches or big buildings, towers. It can also be hills that people in the area knows, you know that hill or etc. So it's known like that. Next, please. The landmarks. In this project, it's nice to see how the development has been around landmarks and interventions, and highlights areas that maybe has not been activated too much, or areas where not so much else are happening. It can just be, I see in Mariestad, I have made those kind of sculptures, like highlighting that area where you only used to cross to get to the bus station, for example. Now it's like you experience something during that path, that way. You can stop, you can reflect, you can observe, maybe you can co-create if something is happening, but suddenly it's a landmark. We go there for eating ice cream. We meet at that place, etc. So those cultural intervention can be both stationary or short-term, of course. And it's nice to see those materials are fading by age or from wind, etc. So it's combined, it's a living area. If you visit it this year, next year, maybe it's new and something has happened. If you work with ice and snow, you rebuild it each year, like they do up north. They build a big hotel in ice and it melts down, and then they rebuild it in a new shape. So that's also something that is attractive for us as people to be part of the process. It's not stationary all the time. Something is developing, and that means you want to come back to that area. You can remember from childhood, but when you come, it's developed, and you can maybe follow that for a long term. Sounds and smells are also important landmarks. And now in this conference, the artists are working also with sound. That's really interesting. Smell, it's harder in digital version. You need to have some smell at home maybe, but actually those senses for us are important because we experience so much from that. So it's kind of to help the observer to orient themselves with more senses than just eyes and the normal thing. But if you can also have taste, people like to eat nice things, you experience more also combined to that. I have an example, you know, those yellow flowers, you have it in Lithuania too. You make oil from it. It's flowers like colza. It's totally yellow fields. They are so beautiful, but they don't smell so nice. If you cycle in them, it's really well. But in picture, they are fantastic. But when you are in the field, maybe the experience is not that nice. Sulfate in paper mills are something that is not nice to have in a city. Even if the city is so clean and nice and beautiful, the smell can destroy that for you if you have those kind of things.
Excuse me, how you call that flower?
Colza, it's they are yellow and you make oil. It's also, I don't know if you can call it rape seed too.
Ah, okay.
It's yellow. Do you understand? I think because I have seen it in Lithuania that you have it.
It looks like Lithuanian rhapsody.
Yeah, it can probably be the same because they have it down south. A lot of big fields in Sweden.
Yes,
oh, yeah.
Rapses.
Yeah.
Rapses.
Thank you very much.
Yes. And you know, if you have been in the countryside to make hay harvest, the smell of harvest from hay or cut grass, it's something we like cinnamon buns in Sweden also. So if you can connect also the other senses to the creation, it's kind of co-creation are also much more possible. So we work with that. We can take the next, please. How to interrelate elements because they fulfill the image of the city and perspective of the place. Lynch, he speaks about that you can group elements with similar objects and you can examine them, how groups function and interact with other groups. Some are, of course, more visible, but together they make more like an experience of that it's more. So it's not too little because you don't see it or you have time to observe it. So when you plan this, you can do those for finding lasting landmarks. In this tragical COVID times, we have an artist in our area down south here. He made iron flowers. He welded them and put out in an acre for each person who had died in Sweden. It became so many, so the field was full. Now they will move that like an installation to Gothenburg to have like a memory area of those feel. And when you see one, but when you see all of them, you get a feeling of there are many, and all those in steel. And so that got like an installation. He wanted to do him himself. He got people got interested, wanted to come, and that field was not good to walk around in. So now they do like a full installation. That comes from the crisis and then his feeling to work with it. But actually also the city and the politicians saw the importance to discuss and speak about what is happening now. So that became a big piece of art. And that could also be interrelations, how you work in the countryside and the big city. We have the same experience of this thing happening now, but we can express it and we can also show it. That was just an example happening right now. We can take next, please. It's about the shifting image. You can have images in a city or a land place that overlap each other or relate to each other. And since we experience places, as I said, like a child, teenager, grown-ups, it can be different angles of this. So Lynch claims that the map can't be like stationary. We must develop it. So it's a continuity that is necessary if the image is to be of any value. So we must follow the time. We can't stay in the past. We can show the past, but right now we need to develop, and we continue in that field. Then we experience in different ways. We can be sad about it as grown-ups that we are not teenagers anymore, but we can also learn to experience new things, of course. So we have different kind of target groups in this. Next, please. He speaks about the quality of the image, about the idea about the image and the place are comparable. So you can understand, so we don't show anything in a nice brochure, and then when we come, it's nothing there. You can't even buy ice cream. So we actually can understand and follow those kind of criteria to make us understanding path and nodes in detail. It can be like a sketch can be very abstract. A photo from a drone, of course, show details, but can also be hard to understand. How should I go walk? Because I don't have that perspective from my own view. But it's you can structure this images. You can have free elements with no structure or interrelations. It can be big houses, for example. They are like solitarily standing by themselves. You can position their different parts with directions or distance. You can say this is 10 kilometers away, so you can have an idea how far do I need to walk or travel. If you have too flexible structure with movements of elements, can be very confusing. Let's say, oh, we put something here in the river, and tomorrow the item is somewhere else in the river, of course, because it's flown away. So you can't have, oh, come and look here. Maybe it's here or maybe not. It's confusing for us. We need to understand how we should behave as people. And maps, of course, help us to observe in a special area, so we can understand the full structure, that we are part of it. So we can work with images in our conscious minds. Next, please. The city form, or the form of the place, the visual environment becomes an integral piece of its inhabitants' lives. It's a claim from Lynch again. Yeah, what you see and meet, it's actually people living there. Good or bad, but they are living there, they are developing, they are part of this place. So when you should develop it, it's you need to have ideas to show that is visible, coherent, and clear. And if you work and get help from artists, they can also express feelings in another way that a road sign can say 10 kilometers to the center. An artist can make a drawing or something else showing that people can walk or cycle or something. You have symbols and other tools. You can visualize this. Then we have much easier to understand and also feel safe and relaxed and maybe inspired to walk those kilometers. So in the best of words, he said, the response to the citizens' desires and needs are met. So that means that the citizen dialogue is crucial. And I know from, I think I saw Rima here somewhere, the work in Ukmerge that I have followed for many years. It's really like you work with the citizen dialogue. In my study work too, and I understand you work with it also in the Netherlands. It's a very good method to really first understand the needs and desire, but also to implement solutions and make solutions together, co-create. Then you get strong and sustainable societies for the future. So you must speak about practical and emotional parts, because it's not only practical. You must have the emotional part when you create, and that is a very good place for giving space for artists, because it can be more, how to say, visible for the public to understand the place and to increase the interest of visiting and to be there. So it must become a true place, that it's remarkable and with no mistakes. It must be clear and interesting for that. And if you use that in the best sense, made by art and shaped for human purposes, then you get something that people want to be in, and they want to pay for it. They want to live there. They want to visit. Next, please. About designing path, it's important to continuously work with that. And in this project, we have seen examples where you can walk around and you develop those kind of experience areas, aligning different paths with each other. So you get lines of movements. And it's important for people to be able to move. You speak sometimes about the lung of the city. It's especially in big cities, because the air is not very good. It's polluted, and you don't see the sky. You don't see trees. So the lungs where you can breathe is almost like physically experienced in big cities. But in the rural areas, we have a lot of green areas. And the path in that place must be marked so you can follow, so you can understand in beforehand how far you need to walk, how much does it take from me. Can I go there if I have somebody in wheelchair, for example, or is it the problem if I'm old? Can I go with this? What do you call it? Rollator. We call it when you're old. You have this help or a stick or something like that. You can have help of lightning patterns, so you feel safe, but also you can see, but also for making nice views. In the area of Västra Götaland, we have a lake called Vättern. We have Vänern and Vättern. And now they have developed, they have a path in Hjo, one of the cities, small cities. And they have made benches you can sit and you can look in the evening, and they also have uplights, so you have light in the whole beach area, and you can walk for some kilometers. It's really popular and really beautiful in the evening. So lightning patterns helps us to navigate, but also to experience something nice, adventurous, etc. And there's also very good artists working with lightning experiences. Smells and sounds again, of course, if you can make that. It can be also if you plant apple trees or different kind of trees, that smells very nice when it's blooming. it's also an experience to be in those kind of areas where you can experience that. They also try to, of course, when you plan, you can plan for a path for both walking, hiking, cycling. In the Netherlands, you're very good in those kind of cycling planning. It's easy to cycle also when it's not so hilly. But also even paths for horses are built in cities today here in Sweden. It's kind of, not everybody agree because horses are smelling and they are pooping. So people don't like that maybe, but it's also good to show that you actually can mix, but you must plan it so you don't get accidents or disturbing for each other. So the target groups can be happy about it, that mix. Next, please. You can also design other elements. Those edges I spoke about, when you come to a crossing or a hill or something that's stopping, something is stopping, it's good to stitch them together so you can understand how you walk around it or over it, or if you can experience something when you come to that edge. So you can increase the visibility for that. It can be like opening a waterfront to traffic or recreation, so you can actually be there. Sometimes they are blocked for different things. Water is something that people really likes to have recreation around. And you can also, if you build a bridge, it's visible for a long distance. So something you want to go and visit, because we go to the bridge, we see that it's a landmark. It must not be huge buildings. It can be natural shapes, of course, like dunes. Example from our friends in the Netherlands, those nice dunes that actually are moving around because it's sand. So it's a sculpture from wind, you can say, not from human hand. And if humans do something, it's there today and gone tomorrow, probably. It's also nice to follow the years, winter, spring, summer, fall, changing, because it's like we are changing, we are growing, we're getting older, etc., and following the nature. So it can be small objects, but their location is crucial. So it can be easy accessible, so you can actually experience it. Next, please. There are some qualities. I think, because I go so quickly now, this presentation you can access it maybe from the conference afterwards, Ernesta, if you want to read it. So it's you can read and you can put questions for me if you want. So I go very quickly now so you get an idea. But the qualities you can actually see, you can work with singularity or figure in the background, or sharpness of boundary, so you notice it. It's one form. Simplicity. The more simple, the more clarity for the visitor to understand it, and you have a geometric sense of that form in different ways. Continuity, you can show where edges or surfaces are linked, like street corners or railroad crossings. You can dominance, you can show what landmark or forms impact others of size or intensity or interest. You can make clarity of joints, and you can connect that to navigate movements. It can be water, railroad, road, for example, how it's continuous. Different directions, so you get information about this. Uphill to the sea, etc. So you understand, will it be heavy to walk or cycle, etc. So it's not only road signs, it can be experiences happening in the land, in the nature, in the area. Visual scopes, if you have some special qualities, can increase the range and penetration of vision in symbols and things like that. Motion awareness, yeah, you can show now it's turning really hard to the right, for example, or now it's an edge, you will fall into the water if you drive too quickly here. So it can be also for safety, of course. Time series, you can see if it's series over time connected to each other. So it's followed in a way that is rational. Names or meaning, like South Station, it can give you a hint. Oh, the station, I don't know where it is, but if I know where the south is in this city or area, I can think of, if I walk that way, I should come to South Station. So south, north, it gives names much easier to a foreigner or a visitor to understand which direction it makes sense to plan this area. So you can think of how you name things. If it's many things you should understand. They say those qualities can work in most contexts, and they can stand alone when you plan, but you need to overlook it all because you need to fulfill desires and needs of many people. So you must understand that people experience different kind of things and understand in different levels. So it must be possible also for children to navigate, for example, or people, elderly people starting to have dementia. How do they find their way home, for example, if they lose their way? It must be possible to read and to understand, or to follow signs or landmarks. Art pieces are really good because they are so different from all normal signs, how to say. So they know I have been by that sculpture or by the church, etc. It's something for our memories to understand. So navigate with interest, safety, and curiosity. And if you want to understand, is it interesting, then go by yourself. Go and check. Do you like to walk that path? Do you like to stand and wait there? Or do you think it's really boring? Maybe you should do something about it. Call an artist, make something. So it's actually, when you plan, you can't just make it in theory. You must work the plan, how to say. It's just me saying that, it's not Lynch. But I think it's important to make practical impacts, not only theoretical. Next, please. Is it any disadvantages to work with this kind of things? Yes, it is. Unfortunately, I must say that it's not only, I'm very happy with this because I think it's a good planning too. But you must reflect really on the development and usage of imageability. Is it wise to understand its limitations and possible disadvantages? A highly visible environment may have its disadvantages, says Lynch. So he was aware of those kind of things. It can be tricky to interpret things for people. It can be this understanding of folklore and culture in specific areas. They are crucial to understand the history of a place for a practical modern use. For example, in New Zealand, they tried to build landing places, airports with those long landing places for the aircrafts, and it was sacred places for the native people, and it went so far so they have to move those kind of plans because those who planned didn't take any consideration of how the history of the culture was. They thought it was just ridiculous and stupid to think about the sacred places. It was not important for the technicians who tried to build it. But in perspective of the whole society, the government, or I don't know if it was the local or the full government, but they decided to move because local interest and culture interest must be taken into consideration when you do like this. So be careful with those planning tools, not to be like in Excel sheet, you plan everything, but the reality is something else. So that could be a disadvantage if you use it like too theoretical. You must take this into consideration. So next, please, how to use the method then? For those who are interested, there are an interview sheet attached in that book from Lynch, in that article from lunch. I have put the pages so you can look. It's not so many, but if you like to work with it, it's actually a sheet with questions. So you can take it, go out and interview people about the place, the area, their impressions and things like that. I think it's pretty good. I have tried it on people around here. You can add on, you can take away, of course, but it's a tool for getting an idea about how people think about development of the places. It's actually questions about impressions, how they have been traveling, how they experience the area, and so on. So it's both for inhabitants, locals, but also for people who are visiting the area. You can see by the summary, you can get some guidelines from those answers for areas to improve. You get inspiration and ideas, and you also have this citizen dialogue living in this. So I think it's a good way to get information directly from the people living in that area. Next, please. So that's how I have tried to work with those kind of things. And then we have those places in this project, the sense of place, Wadden. I can't pronounce it properly, I guess, but I say Wadden area in the Netherlands. I should also say those illustrations in this presentations is made by me. So it's, you take it for what it is. I thought it was nice when I saw that.
Very nice picture. Thank you.
Thank you. Because I got inspired from this art piece they were doing and those dramatically view of the sea and those sand dunes. It's really impressive to see how people can work and develop areas actually not commercial at all. And so this is like a node for getting people to get inspired. So I think this is something I couldn't visit it myself because I have health issues, but my colleague has been there and I have seen so many pictures and heard so much about it. So I think I really can recommend people who want to experience those kind of things and also get the sense of the feeling of the artistic ideas about how to develop the place. It's not industrial. It's really a good example. Next, please. And then I have Ukmergė. Those are my, I thought of what is my impression. I worked there for many years, visit many times, and it's kind of a dear place for me, mostly because it's nice people I work with, but also I like the area because it reminds me very much about my where I grow up. So those landmarks I see, and I could see the progress. It's that in Ukmergė you take care of both the historical past and the prospective future. It's really a melting pot of what is happening, the history, and also kind of modern history. When you left the Soviet Union, it's kind of not so many years ago, and all that development, and also historical parts where we have kind of similar in Sweden. We have a lot of trade between each other and things like that. So many things we can recognize also from our elderly history. So for me, it's, I think you call it Vilkemerge, the girl. Okay, yeah. The girl on that wolf. I think that's, for me, it's really the nature, the wild, the freedom. For me, it's Lithuanian people are freedom because it's kind of new building from old history. And then I like this dog Keksas. Is that correct? Yeah. I can't say it either, but I saw that in the street. I think it's so nice to walk, and then suddenly you see it. It's really nice to experience that when you just walk. You don't need to do anything. You just say hello to the dog. So I took a picture, and then I have to draw it when I came home because I things to see and experience when you walk in the core of a city. Because the old churches and things like that, yeah, they should be there. But this is kind of something that it's fun, it's inspirational, and it's playful. And you feel, you stop and reflect and think, oh wow, why don't they do it here? So those kind of things are, I think many people like it. But I also like this, I don't know if it's made of welded iron or something, this Vilkmerge. But I think that is power for me.
It is cast from bronze.
Okay, I'm sorry, I have been too far away, but it
was 1980 or something.
All right, yeah. For me, it's really a symbol of freedom when I see it. So you both have the freedom, the fight, the independence, and you have the play, you have the game, you have the children still in you. When you see the dog, so you have many landmarks connecting for a visitor, but probably also for an inhabitant. And then we can take the next. This your river Sventoyi. I can't pronounce it so good either, but I think you know. When you renovated this Sventoyi, this place, when you can see so far and you can see the balloons, and you have this amphitheater for the folklore singers and everything. It's really powerful. I have seen it in the afternoon when the sun starts to set. It's kind of a magical place, I think, and the renovation also shows history, new areas, new times, and it's also gives hope in a way to see the connection over time, and you can feel it, and everybody can be there. It's open for young, old, if you're disabled, everybody can be there, and also the lightnings around it, and the view. I think it's something that will attract a lot of people to go there to visit, just to have the view, to see that. Of course, the old town itself is nice to visit, but this is a modern intervention to use a place like that. I think it's a good example. Next, please. And then we have my hometown. This should be, I hope you have seen all those artist pieces before. This is my interpretation of this nice art piece made from one of the Swedish artists standing in Mariestad. Mariestad is a town close to the big lake Vänern. And it's my old hometown, so I remember things from a childhood, and now I can follow it. It's really nice to see the development, also with the culture parts in the city. Next, please. And the landmarks here, now we have new, we have also more, but we have an old landmark. It's since I was small, the Vänerskutan. It should be the big ship in Vänern to the left. It's a fountain on the square, and I think all the people in Mariestad have been sitting there eating ice cream from the local ice cream producer, Klingsglass. That's the summer memories for all people living there, and hopefully also from the visitors. But that is kind of a landmark. Nobody understood it because it's from the 60s somewhere. It's kind of modern from that time. If people in Mariestad had decided, I'm not sure it had looked like that, but the artist was very famous and brave, and it was in that time. So this is a really famous landmark, showing that importance of sculptures and things to connect for the identity. And everybody meets at this Vänerskutan. Another landmark, maybe not so visible in a way, because this Lake Vänern, it's kind of a big lake in Sweden. It's a place called Ornäs in Lugnås. It's very small. I took it because I have lived there. But fishing at the Lake Vänern, I think many people have done it or have the experience of the water. and the really green forest. We have mixed forest here, and it could be, of course, around the lake everywhere. It can be from Lithuania because it's kind of the same, but it's something that is landmarks people likes to experience when they have free time. And I think that's important to also show and maybe develop also with art pieces, if it's possible, because many people are walking or traveling and taking the children. So the nature itself and the water, it's something you can use in those kind of parts. Next, please. In my stad, and I think I have not asked about Uppmerge and Wadensee, but in my stad, we worked a lot with the garden crafts, craft academy. So it's taking care of old traditions with the new techniques and things like that. It's an international model of area for testing those kinds of things, a natural meeting place. And I see it also, the connection between our partners in the project also develop this kind of things to grow, especially when artists work together and can work in different physically places, even during this COVID times. Next, please. So, for discussion about my part in this, to reflect on how to develop and to get help from the culture field when you plan areas, is actually, I want it to be like an input for increased interest in rural areas overall, anywhere, and help those areas to develop. The tool of culture interventions has been used in the project, I think, with a very good result so far. We are soon in the end, but it shows that it's possible. It shows that you can co-create from different fields of interest and expertise, and you get help from the citizen dialogue. You have the artists working, you have the companies, you have the politicians, you have the officers, and it's an area for taking it to the next level. So my idea is to combine the resources in a place to really find and develop location time factors different from different areas that can be used as a strategical resource for also non-urban firms, like companies in the urban areas. You can work in joint activities with the municipality, with artists, with companies, with the education platforms. So you can get co-produce and sustainable competitive advantages over time, because we need that to, how to say, develop and survive in the countryside and the rural area, and attract more people to come and live and develop those kind of places. But not only for single companies, but for the whole regional community. So this is a tool that really can be used. And the image of place, it can help us to navigate and to develop those movements that are needed for the observers, the people who comes to live or visiting rural areas of interest for the future. So with this, I hope it's a bit of inspiration. I know it's maybe not what you think of each day, but it can be pieces maybe you can act on or reflect on or to read about. And if you like to know what people likes or thinks about the place, use this small interview sheet, the questions, and get help, and get out and ask people and see what you can do together. Because I think it's the only way to develop areas is to do it together. It's the only way, because you can't say it's your problem, you must do blah, blah, blah. We must do it together because we live and we act together. And since we are actually also in the European Union, we act and live together, even if people have so many different kind of ideas and opinions. But we have decided we want to work together. So this is one way to try to help to develop rural areas that I believe in can be a puzzle in the whole picture. In the last page, I have put references. Maybe you can show that. It's easy to read by yourself, but it's good to have references so you can find the books and also the electronic sources. I have taken it for the different areas. And the next slide, the last one. There you have my contact details. If you want to contact me or have an idea or opinion or just want to draw watercolors together with me, I don't know. I really thank you so much for your attention, and I'm sorry we couldn't meet in public directly, face to face, but this is a start for that. I hope for the upcoming years to work together. So with that, I think I have managed the time, and maybe we have time for some reflection or question.
Thank you, Lotten. Yeah, it's very, the last sentence or the last part was very inspiring for me. This, you can do Excels, you can do lots of conception, but get up your that place and go to the people just to ask what they are really interested in. It's not about your thinking they should be interested, but what is really interested. And I'm really grateful that you name, and I hear you saying that freedom and joyful, that freedom about the Vilkmerge and some very joyful thing about that dog. Very, very seems very ordinary things, but and an extraordinary sensations causing to the people.
Yeah, it's powerful. Actually, if you use it, it's powerful because it's powerful feelings. And it's different what you experience, of course. But it's good to ask and to ask yourself to understand if you should develop more things. You have so much in place already, so you don't need to invent a lot of new things. You need to repackage things and think together.
And that thing that yellow flowers are so beautiful, but they smell so bad.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
but it's very cool for the eyes. It's not so good for the like smell. Yeah, thank you for the dots. It's it's something for digest. Then when I'm going to create something on when somebody is creating.
Yeah.
And Lotten, if or when you will be in Nukmerge, tell me, I'll make you excursion around surroundings. We have so beautiful places.
I love to do that. I just don't know when it should be. We wait for the vaccine.
You know, we have some places like from Lord of the Rings, it's
yeah.
So beautiful that I just discovering it's my hobby. For me, it's a very big joy,
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, for sure.
Just connect Rima or Andrus and they tell me that I will come and
thank you.
I will make excursion.
Yeah. Thank you.
Lotten, thank you for a great lecture. And I has one question, is it possible to answer? Maybe you have in your cultural politics some ideas how to create sustainability in the regions when the people or cultural people are going out from regions. What do you think about? Maybe Swedish or other countries has some examples for us.
Yeah, I think it's connected to you must be able to live on what you work with, and if they don't pay in that area, it's hard to stay. So it's actually, I think one way could be to get more educational platforms like universities and things like that, culture departments establishing in those areas that can attract like artists to stay and to work there. It's one way they have done it in Mariestad. I think that's, otherwise it has been not, this project has not existed in Mariestad without Da Capo. It's I see Sophia is here, but I think you can agree on that. It's one. It must be a awareness at the political level that it's important with culture. Because if you say we should take away and cut everything like that, we are really like narrowing down so people are not growing. We see like in Norway, where they put a lot of money for decorating cities and things like that with art pieces. I think they are the best in the world of doing that. They are kind of proud of that, but they say it's one way. If we want people to stay here, we must live in cultural life. And then we must also make sure that the artists can live on it for that. So it's making awareness in the political field so they get budgets, so they can work with it to develop and to also get the citizen dialogue. So people like growing the need from the bottom. So they are driving it like an important question to show that for living like a person, we can't live without music, we can't live without song and dance and experiences. We are human beings. So that we need to transform it into budget and hard facts. I think that's the problem, because when you speak about cars, then it's easy to get money and politicians to say we need a factory, it's work, blah, blah, blah. But culture is more like soft, experience-based, and unfortunately don't have the same budgets. But I think if you work with education and citizen dialogue and buy things from the artist and show it, then you get attraction around it to raise the awareness. And when you do city planning, you must put budgets for those kind of things in it to work with the experts in that field. It's just my own idea about, because I don't really know how to solve it, but it could be one way to help that development.
Thank you so much, Orten. Yeah, maybe something else can make a marks for this issue.
Mm. I'm sorry, I lost. Was it a question? The last I didn't hear.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much, Lorden. I'm asking other maybe have some questions.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, maybe other our colleagues have some marks.
I speak and ask myself. I'm sorry.
It's okay. For example,
I would like to thank you, Lotten, for your very interesting lecture. And these aspects as how to involve people in this process is very difficult.
I know. You really need to just continue to work. And we do it together.
Politicians decide and we are working with projects, but people not agree with all decisions. So it's very important to organize more discussions.
Yeah, and to co-create and let people, let children co-create with artists and do things together, because that raise awareness and attractiveness and interest. You're very good in Ukmergę, working in your culture school, for example. So that's the basic, to let children play and to develop. Then you have the Keskas dogs, and then you are powerful and make the freedom. So you can follow that part. Yeah, I think it's important. Thank you, Karima. Vaidas, you said something, but I couldn't hear.
Just I also have a problems because I'm offered, there was some kind of concourse in Vilnius. They build a building for half a, I don't know, 2 or 100 million. They for furniture.
Why does your connection is unstable? We can't hear you pretty well, because some words were like eaten.
I can't hear.
Yeah.
Maybe Vaidas, if we have some more questions, because I think our time is soon ending. If it's more questions, maybe you can send it to you, Ernesta, or Rima. You can email me if it's something, so I don't,
of course,
lose it.
Yeah,
and thank you, Carolina. Also, yeah, thank you very much. I'm really happy. Yeah, the big challenge to be on the same page, says Carolina here, and understand, mutual understand, share same big dream for politicians, citizens, NGOs, business, and artists. That's really true. It's like in everything, but I think the culture dimension is actually our driving, as a driving force that can help people to dream, because it's actually about that. If we can dream together, we can achieve together. Sophia has some good line. I should write a song about it. I don't have it now, but maybe to the final conference. Yeah, and you get the information, Rima says, on your website, and maybe in the Sophia can put it also somewhere, my presentation. It's 11 o'clock in Sweden, 12 o'clock in Ukmergę, I hope.
Yes.
Yeah, so I guess my time is out, and I say achu and thank you, and I hope to see you in new context in the future.
Yes, thank you a lot and so much, and so being on time and so very precise and so wide and narrow at the same time. It's a wonderful.
Thank you.
And yes, we're ending our third day with the lectures, and yes, and I'm inviting everybody to come on Friday from 10 Lithuanian time and 9 Netherlands and Sweden time, just to support and to watch in what point gonna be our artists with creating a land art in that online workshop during all the week, how we gonna sense and feel the Ukmergę and to create the land art at the end of the week. So we're very kindly invite you to be on Friday all together for ourselves, for move that thing that rural areas are so vivid and so nice, and they're so welcoming people to live and to visit, and with art and masterpieces of our artists and creation. And as I began the event with Koshi of the water, I am ending it as well with this sound. In co-creation with Czeslavas. Nature and sound. See you all of us on Friday. Bye.
Bye. Good luck. Thank you for everyone.